This is Matthew Kratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world imploding in the last 48 hours. And of course, the question a lot of you have, is your money gone if you've been holding it on this exchange? Of course, we're talking about FTX. I made a video about this crypto exchange and its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, just 2 days ago, and things have accelerated since then and become much worse. I actually got something wrong in this video. I did not think that FTX was going to blow up in such a spectacular fashion. And the reason for that was I widely considered SBF to be the most respected, not respected by me, but the most respected, one of the most respected figures in the crypto space. And I thought he would be able to access capital much more easily than he was able to. But I think I underestimated how fraudulent his behavior has been. I did get one thing right, though, that if Alameda was bluffing and they were going to let the value of the FTT token fall, and again, if this isn't making sense, go back and watch this video, which I'll link to in the description notes below. We could see, if Alameda was bluffing and FTX was bluffing, we could see cascading liquidations and contagion, as we saw with the Terra Luna implosion and the Celsius fiasco. And I also said if Alameda or FTX fail, everything in the space, including Bitcoin, will fall. And that is what we're seeing this morning. FTX yesterday agreed to sell itself to 𝐂𝐍 and Binance because of this liquidity problem. And it looks like they did this in a last-ditch effort to protect customer deposits. And that's the only reason I would think something like this would be happening. The FTT token has completely collapsed, down almost 75% in the last 24 hours. And when we last talked about this token on Monday, they were defending the line at $22 per token. That has now broken. Sam Bankman-Fried's fortune has gone from about 16 billion down to below a billion, and he has fallen off the billionaire list. This is for a guy who unfortunately was a recipient of the Fortune magazine cover curse, calling him the next Warren Buffett. Perhaps his fate was sealed at that point. Here's the tweet from 𝐂𝐍 over at Binance. He's the founder and CEO. This afternoon, FTX asked for our help. There is a significant liquidity crunch, and this is what was happening. There were too many withdrawals coming out of FTX and Alameda, and so they went hat in hand to 𝐂𝐍 and Binance. And the tweet goes on, to protect users, we signed a non-binding LOI, letter of intent, intending to fully acquire FTX.com. That is the international branch of it. FTX US is a separate branch that's also owned by SBF. Intending to fully acquire FTX and help cover the liquidity crunch. We will be conducting a full due diligence, DD, in the coming days. Now, it's very important to notice here, this is a letter of intent to purchase the company. It's non-binding. This may still not go through, especially if they find a lot of skeletons in the closet. And just looking at Sam Bankman-Fried, you can tell that there probably are a lot of skeletons in the closet. But what they may be doing here is just trying to buy some time for FTX to process everything. It looked like yesterday FTX was trying to raise money. They said originally they needed to raise $1 billion, and this is what I thought would be much easier, especially in Silicon Valley. But then by the end of the day, they were looking for $5 to $6 billion because there'd been so much capital leaving the company, so many withdrawals, plus the value of their assets like FTT plummeting. So this became a very large hole to plug, $5 to $6 billion versus $1 billion. Now this is for a company that itself, back in October, just a little bit over a year ago, October of 2021, was valued at $32 billion. FTX was valued at that. And at that round, you had groups like sophisticated groups like SoftBank and Tiger, whose record has been sort of falling apart recently. But also, it's very sad to see Ontario Teachers Pension Plan invested. This is probably a zero. I think equity holders will be wiped out. There is so much debt, and their customer funds are also assets that obviously have to be returned. So this is a zero for shareholders of FTX and FTX US. If you're finding this video helpful so far, I just ask you to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with a few friends, especially if they're interested and are worried about what's happening in the crypto space right now. So what's going to happen if you're holding any money, stablecoins, Bitcoin, other crypto, US dollars, other fiat at FTX or FTX US? Now, I honestly don't know enough to say with any degree of certainty. A lot of this stuff has not been made public, but these are my best guesses based on what I've been seeing and what I've been reading. If you are holding Bitcoin, crypto, or stable coins like USDT or any other stable coins on FTX US, so the US version of the company, there's a good chance that you're not going to get back 100 cents on the dollar because these are not covered by FDIC insurance, as I'll show you in a moment. In fact, you're probably going to be lucky to get back 30 cents on the dollar. Some of these bankruptcies, the customer deposits get included with the assets, and the customers get only 5 or 10 cents back if they're lucky. So you'll be lucky to get 30 cents back if things are as bad as they appear they are. And again, these are my guesses, my best guesses. If you're holding actual US dollars on FTX US, you're probably covered by FDIC insurance. Again, this is a US specific thing, up to $250,000 per depositor or per name on the account. So if it's with your spouse, you might be covered up to $500,000. You'll have to read the fine print. Now, as for non-US investors, customers, non-US customers of FTX, it will really depend on your local laws and insurance. But I think you will also be sustaining a loss, unfortunately. From everything I've read, it looks to me like FTX and Alameda were trading with customer funds. They were either using them as collateral or they were actually moving them over from FTX to Alameda to trade with them, which is a big, big no-no in any country. And this actually makes SBF, scam, bankster, fraud, as we tried not to call him on Monday, a great candidate for jail, which I think he probably deserves from my vantage point. Again, we hope he has a fair trial. Will Binance have the capital and the desire to make all FTX customers whole? This is really the big question. If you have money at FTX or FTX US, this is what's going to determine whether you get any money back, because the assets of FTX and Alameda are less than the liabilities. So there's no equity there to pay out customers as far as I can tell. So it's up to Binance or whoever buys FTX to make customers whole, perhaps using some assets that are left over that haven't been blown up. There's also a chance that this Binance bid was just a ploy, as we said, to stall for time, and that Binance will back out of the deal after doing due diligence. Again, it was a non-binding letter of intent. Now, who's going to buy FTX US? Because as I understand it, Binance is only looking to buy FTX.com. U.S. government would also probably not be too happy about a Chinese company buying FTX US. So the Binance bid is for FTX itself. Even that, though, may fall through, and they may just say they conducted their due diligence, they found some bad things, and they're not going to proceed with their purchase. Just wanted to link to this. This is the terms of service for FTX US, saying that FDIC insurance only covers fiat balances held in these banks up to per depositor coverage limit then in place. And this is the important point, and does not extend to any cryptocurrency, stablecoin, or non-fiat balances. So if you're holding non-fiat in an FTX US account, you're in much bigger trouble than if you're holding fiat, ironically. Here is a leaked letter, or what I believe is a leaked letter from SBF to his investors in FTX. And he's talking about basically, I'm very sorry I screwed things up. And he goes into saying our first priority is protect customers and the industry. That's been guiding what we do. In fact, it's been the exact opposite. FTX has been a complete disaster, a complete distraction from the real revolution, which is Bitcoin. But what he's basically saying is they need to protect customer funds. And they weren't doing a very good job of that if they were actually trading with them. But in this letter, we need to protect customer funds and the industry. And after that, we'll be focusing on our second priority, which are actual shareholders, people who've invested in FTX as a private company. And so those people are probably wiped out, including the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, unfortunately. There is also some interesting stuff happening on chain, on the Ethereum blockchain. It looks, at least according to this account, like FTX official is sending Alameda $10 million in US dollars, while it's impossible for users to withdraw money from FTX. So I don't know if this is funny business going on. Obviously, this stuff is visible on chain, and prosecutors and regulators will be looking at it. Here's one thing that makes me think perhaps the Binance deal will fall through. Coinbase had a look, Brian Armstrong, and he said, a quote from Bloomberg here, I had a number of conversations. This is the CEO of Coinbase speaking. I had a number of conversations with people over the last 24 hours, and there's reasons why that would not make sense. We're not quite at liberty to share the details right now. It'll probably all come out eventually. And one of the reasons for this may be just that the hole is too big, and it's not worth acquiring those customers when there's been so much goodwill destroyed and the brand being destroyed, and there's just a huge hole to plug in terms of customer funds. So this would argue that the chances of customers getting their funds back is lower. I think in closing here, we should remember, though, how crypto people like SBF and the venture capitalists who invested in his companies have treated and talked about Bitcoiners. In bull markets, what you hear from them is Bitcoin maxis are evil and closed-minded, and Bitcoin is stupid and old tech, and buy my shitcoin or altcoin instead because it's faster and better for the environment. This is a big thing that SBF liked to say. And then in bear markets, when bad times like this happen, oh, we're all in this together. It's been a tough year for our industry and we need to stick together. Nope, we're not all in this together, Sam. There is no crypto industry. It's a bunch of unregistered securities masquerading as something important. In fact, Bitcoin is a completely different industry, and it's built on a foundation of stone, unlike crypto. And I want everyone to remember, too, what Sam Bankman-Fried said about Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no future as a payments network, says FTX chief. Unfortunately, it looks like karma came back, Bitcoin karma, and SBF is the one who actually has no future. And this is what happens if you come for the king. You better kill him, because if you don't, you're going to be taken down as well. Bitcoin is a much more solid digital asset. It's the real thing, unlike all the other garbage that exchanges like FTX have been pumping. I want to personally thank Do Kwon and Terra Luna, Mashinsky and Celsius, and now Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX for all the increased government scrutiny and regulation and bad press that these blowups will lead to. And this really does spill over and sort of tar Bitcoiners with the same brush, at least in the eyes of the general public who don't understand the nuances of these things. So good job, altcoiners. You continue to do your job of slowing down the coming of a Bitcoin standard. And in many ways, I consider these altcoiners, especially the head guys like Sam Bankman-Fried, they're actually much worse than central bankers and regulators, because they do understand the Bitcoin revolution much better than these legacy financial people do, but they still have chosen instead to subvert it for personal gain. And SBF was clearly a very greedy person to be using the amount of leverage he was, and possibly even to be trading with customer deposits. This is the complete opposite of a Bitcoin ethos. What other knock-on effects might we see? Will the BlockFi and Voyager deals go through now with FTX? Probably not, would be my guess. They've got bigger problems. Does this mean that BlockFi and or Voyager are now at risk again? Quite possibly. So if you're holding any money in those places, you should get it out as soon as possible, in my opinion. Who's going to blow up next? Nothing is guaranteed, but my best guesses are two other extremely weak firms. I think we've talked about both of them in the past. There's Crypto.com. CRO was one of the tokens that everyone was saying you need to watch in 2022. And you did need to watch it because it crashed the entire year and is now crashing down 6 or 7%. This is a very bad sign for Crypto.com and implies that they may have to do something similar and freeze withdrawals there. There may be a liquidity or solvency crunch as well. Same goes for 𝐋𝐄𝐀𝐑𝐍. In fact, it was just 2 months ago that 𝐋𝐄𝐀𝐑𝐍 was hit with a cease and desist order from 8 U.S. states. So these are both companies that have a shady past. Meanwhile, if you're a Bitcoin hodler, you can just keep calm and hodl on. We may indeed see new lows here. It looks like we may have already seen them while I was recording this video. So I was wrong about that in terms of saying Bitcoin would probably not hit a new low. But there's nothing to be worried about here as long as you understand Bitcoin and you're hodling it and your Bitcoin is not sitting on an exchange. There's only one real scarce digital commodity, and that's Bitcoin. That's the real revolution, and everything else has been noise or scam or outright scam, like scam, bankster, fraud. And this is one of the nice things about bear markets. They're quite brutal. They're quite psychologically difficult, and my heart goes out to anyone who has lost a deposit or any money with FTX or FTX US. But there is a certain healing that's going on as these scamsters and scammers are being shown for what they really are. and watching things blow up. I think the downside of this is we're going to see a lot more consolidation in the industry. We'll have even more centralization with really large players like Coinbase, and now Binance, especially if it goes through with the FTX purchase, is going to be absolutely massive. If you think about Ethereum and the validators, this is going to be an even more centralized source of validators, which makes Ethereum an even more captured coin. So there are a lot of knock-on effects from this. Hopefully I haven't missed any big ones in this video, but this is an evolving situation, and this is the best I was able to put together this morning. The coming days will show what's really going to happen here. And again, if you are holding any funds with FTX or FTX US, I'm very, very sorry to hear that, and I'll be hoping and praying for the best for you. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.